Hey, good morning, neighbors, and welcome to Vertical Video Land. So this started about 3 hours ago, I suppose. I decided to write some thoughts down, and it was kind of working backwards from my page here. I ended up at electrical interferometry. Now, all of these things are Google's if you aren't familiar with them, but so this started with Ohm's law. This is really a simple equation. It's one everybody uses. Voltage equals current times resistance. So if you know two of those three things, say with a meter, you can calculate the third thing, the resistance of your toaster when it's on. You can also look to find out and do your calculation based upon the power label on the toaster, how much power it consumes. So Ohm's law, it's the source versus the load. V is your battery or your wall outlet, and the load is your refrigerator or LEDs or a battery charger or whatever else you're going to run today. So kind of a simple equation there. That equation has many forms, transformations that are done to change the denominators in the equation to give it different meaning. So Ohm's law is derived or how is it? Yeah, out into a power equation where P, power equals I squared R. Now you notice the equation above it is a voltage equation. Uses the same I and R, but now you square the I. These are power equations. And these are the simplest forms of the power equations. So power is also expressed in watts, right? Typically you would say watts. Even though you see a P there, you would say I squared R equals 100, so that's 100 watts. So it's power, but watts adds a time factor in there. So over time, how much power do you use during a day? You have peak power, where you're going to run the hot water heater, and then you have you're sitting around with a light on. So whenever you turn something on, you're adding resistance or decreasing resistance, depending on your perspective or point of view, to make something work. So you've got series and parallel resistance, or in each one of these is a Google. This is, to understand. Now what's important here is knowing when to apply these equations. So Ohm's law is a pretty simple one from all appearances. But we're getting into engineering terms and words and other considerations in a moment here, the rest of the words on the page, because these are as important as these. These lower equations feed into the upper equations, right? But watts, power, and time. I argue, I debate, I pose that we sitting here consume about 2,000 watts per hour. Or no, 2,000 watts a day, pardon, which gives you only how many watts an hour, 2,024 divided, 2,000 divided by 24. But what happens during the day is your resistance changes. You turn on the refrigerator, you turn on and off the lights, the refrigerator cycles all by itself, so it hogs power for 20 minutes and then it stays silent. So it has a power cycle, a power factor. But that 2,000 watts is kind of what I figured from trying to build a standalone camper RV solar powered doo-woppy thing. So to get 2 weeks of off-grid camping, I needed enough power for a little refrigerator and some of life's niceties like lights. And you design to that using these equations. But something happens here when you get into frequencies. Frequencies tend to change all the rules. You get into impedance equations. You use things like X sub L, inductive capacitance, or inductive X sub L. X sub C is capacitance. Those appear as resistance at higher frequencies. So not only the capacitors in the circuits, the capacitance of the wires leading into the circuits matter. You can go, these, I just put these as Googles because you have to go and put some qualifiers on there. Electrical impedance, high frequency circuit resistance is a great Google. Standing wave ratios, another great Google. Electrical interferometry, trying to keep this short because it's too fat a video. I'm recording in the wrong mode. But knowing when these equations turn on and off, and they do turn off, that resistance equations above can be overwhelmed by impedance equations. If you don't know they have to be applied, then you're wrong. So this is one example in electrical engineering of a list of formulas you have to consider whether to use or not use depending upon the circuit environment, and it gets hard. So, pieces out.